Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Developing the Leader Within podcast. I'm Enrique, your host, and today I am blessed to have Kelly Merbler. I met her over 2 years ago at LinkedIn Orlando. Was amazed at her journey and what road she took to get where she's at. So, Kelly, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I am so happy that you are sharing this time with us as we discuss leadership and strengths. And so, I just want to give you a moment to tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Enrique, for having me. And it's so nice to be here to spend the morning with you. And I live here in West Palm Beach, born and raised, native Floridian, and just who I am is I'm just like a lot of people that are listening in. I'm a busy working mom. I have two boys, two teenage boys. So if you can relate, I'll buy you a drink after this, maybe. But I'm based here in West Palm Beach, and I am just very passionate about developing leaders. I started my own leadership consulting firm. It'll be 4 years ago in January of this coming 2022, but I focus on helping organizations build strengths based cultures and values based cultures. I do a lot of executive coaching with leaders inside organizations focusing on strengths based leadership. And I love to do keynote speaking at conferences. So I get to dabble in a lot of different things, and it really plays to my strengths, the way that I can really add value to the world.
Well, I tell you, I love what you do in leading folks to their strength. And that's the reason why we're talking specifically about that topic today. Now, we share a common background in John Maxwell training,
Yep.
as well as
Yeah.
the coffee. Now, I told you I'm wearing my orange because of
That's
your
right.
orange coffee cup, right? So it's a wonderful thing to share. And so uh, most of the things that leaders are challenged with
Mhm.
is that we're always finding weaknesses.
Of
It's
course.
it's it's kind of like a human thing to
Mhm.
automatically find the weakness, and we seldom take time to find our strengths, to add to those strengths, and fine tune those to make us the better version of who we were yesterday. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about, because your journey is, you kind of talked about it, but you was in corporate America for 21 years, and boom, this epiphany, right? So tell us a
Boom.
little bit about that.
Yeah, and I always say this because it's funny when I think about it. I was in corporate America for 21 years, so by the time I hit my 21st anniversary in the organization, I always said I was legally allowed to drink by then, because I was 21. But yeah, I had a great corporate career. I loved what I did. I worked with great people, and I had a blast for many of those years. But I will say there was, and I think a lot of people go through this. And I can tell you, I talk to a lot of people right now that are experiencing this in their career. I just got to that moment where I felt I could do more and I wanted to grow. And I didn't realize why I was having that feeling. I couldn't put my finger on what the answer was yet until after I understood what my strengths were. But there was this yearning for me to want to do more and engage more with leaders and inspire leaders more and speak publicly more about it. And I think a lot of times when we're in those moments, we feel like we're crazy sometimes. Like, why are we feeling this way? We have such a great career and we've been successful, so why don't we just keep on that road? But for me, it was just too much of a pull. It was truly a pull. It wasn't a push. Nobody was pushing me, and I felt this pull forward to do something about it. And as I grew older, my values shifted. What was most important to me in the beginning of my career, in the middle of my career, had changed through life experiences. And I just wanted to never have any regrets in my life. God willing, if I live to 90, to look back and say, I could have done more, and I could have really lived a full life if I had only tried. And I just never wanted to have that regret. So I said, I'm out. And I just took the leap of faith to follow my calling where my strengths led me.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm one that also subscribes to. I don't want my tombstone to say "Here lies Enrique's hopes and dreams." Right? I don't want that to happen. So kudos to you, and you're right. Your purpose will pull you. Right? It's not something that you're dragged to. If it is, that's not your purpose. But your purpose will pull you. So talking about purpose, and a lot of people purpose in their heart to become leaders at one point of time in their life. A lot of people don't aren't ready really for what leadership demands. But what do you think is the reason that we focus so much on weakness versus strength?
I think we're just naturally programmed to do that. Like we're I look at how I was taught in my career. We Our annual reviews. Take that for an example. When we do the annual review or we're on the other side of the annual review, what does it focus on? It focuses on what you need to improve in for the next year. And that's how corporate America for the most part is conditioned, and that's what we bring to our leaders. It's We're focusing on that 58 minutes of that 1 hour of what do you need to do better, Enrique, to have a great 2022, and let's work in getting you better here, instead of taking those 58 minutes and really analyzing what made you successful this year and what strengths did you play to that we can really form your individual development plan and build around to make you more successful. Now, we're not going to forget weaknesses. That's not what this is about. Weaknesses are a part of who we are, and they make us a whole person. But there's so much research and data and case studies that the Gallup organization, where I was certified, has done all over the world, where when you focus on what people do best instead of fixating on what they do wrong or not as well, that's where you have the potential for the most progress and success. But I don't think a lot of organizations see it that way. And it's just maybe they've never been exposed to it, because I never knew about it until I exposed myself to it. And then the whole study of strengths for me, which has been 5 years, it really helped me realize that I'm created very uniquely. And when I understand who I am and the power I have within and the value I bring to the world, that's where my purpose lies. And that's where my potential to take myself the farthest lies.
uh, a, that's a powerful realization. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, and folks that are listening, once you get to that point, there's just no turning back. Your purpose, like we mentioned earlier, will pull you, and you have no other alternative. I mean, you could go ahead and prick against the thorn if you want, but it will pull you in that direction. And I hope you listen. So, Kelly, I love the fact that you bring up the point that, hey, we're structured to hone in on weaknesses. And so maybe corporate America, if you're listening, hey, maybe we need to change that a little and get Kelly at your organization and find out what really matters. But so in relations to leadership, you're right. We kind of have a structure to focus on weaknesses, but the themselves are often on the giving side of that.
Mhm.
They're usually, I've seen leaders get passed over those little reviews just because they're in a leadership position. It happens, and so they never get the full benefit. So
Sure.
the leader has to find some way to get that for themselves. Now, one way would be to, hey, call Kelly and, and get her on a one-on-one, and you can do that. But not everybody has access to Kelly. What could a leader do in absence of being able to get you in their presence? What can they do to start thinking about their strengths versus their weaknesses?
Oh my goodness. And I look back at how I started. It's not, I think Tony Robbins is the one who said this, but it's not how many resources we have, it's how resourceful we are. And when I was in that moment of really realizing, and it has to start with the realization as a leader that we can be better. You know, it's what John Maxwell has taught us. It's we all have a lid on our leadership, and we're only going to take ourselves as far as that lid is on us. And everybody under that lid is only going to be able to go as far as where we can take them. So I started realizing that I needed to be better for my team. And I was willing to work on myself to be better for my team. And I was willing to go inward so I could give outwardly first. So I went inward and I just started finding resources. And we didn't have resources where I was. So I had to get creative. Like, where can I learn? Where can I get mentored? Where can I read? And the, the best website I ever found, and I'll give your followers a tip here. So, guys, grab your pen. The best website I ever found that I use to this day that's free is www.google.com. And literally, I started reading and studying and following what the best leaders did. And there was an alignment in following strengths. And when you look at who are some of the best leaders out there or the best people that are just successful, you don't have to be famous to be successful, but what are they doing that there's a common alignment? And they have aligned in their strengths. You know, Michael Phelps, he doesn't play baseball. He knows what he's good at. Oprah, she knows what she's good at. And they have identified what they're truly good at, and that's where they focus their practice, their coaching, their their study, and that's where they practice their craft, and they didn't get there overnight. So I just started following those that were aligned with strengths and learning more about how did they realize what their true strengths were. And there's success leaves clues. There's a recipe behind what people do. And we can spend a whole lot of time focusing on developing our weaknesses. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we're only going to take ourselves so far versus if we focus 80% of our time developing our strengths, that's where it's not a question of how long will it take anymore for me. It's how far can I take it now? And every year I develop further on that level of my lid because I'm focusing on developing what I'm truly naturally gifted at. And that's where I've seen myself grow the most and be most successful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned something right early on, realizing that you need it and being willing to
Yep.
go after it, two different things. And I think leaders get stuck in between those two.
Sure.
A lot of people know what they need to do and
Sure.
what they need to ingest to get themselves better, but the will is not there, or some excuse pops up, and that becomes the primary thought, and there it goes, right?
Yep.
So for leaders that are listening, and you also mentioned it's not the resources. Obviously, in 2021, it
Yeah.
is not whether you can find the information. It's, are you willing to find it and actually apply it? Because there's a ton, and you're right, Google did it. A ton of
Mhm.
information for leaders to digest and get better on their own. you know, a lot of leaders will complain about, I don't have that here and I don't have that here. I was one that subscribed to, hey, when there's not a door, build one,
Yep,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
build it, build it, because guess what? We got hands.
That's
So
right. I
uh,
like to bust it down. If there's not a door, I am going to bust it down or climb over it, go around it, go through it, under it, whatever.
do what you need to do to get yourself
Yep.
to the other side, because it really, you know, what leaders forget in their day to day is that there's this trail of other people behind us that
Yep.
are looking at us consistently. You
Yep.
think they're not looking, oh, but they're looking, and
Oh, they're
yes, they're
looking.
listening. And
Yep.
so it would behoove all leaders to go ahead and use that will and start doing things to find your strength. Now, I watch you in these videos with the people, and it's just so exciting. And and I feel like I'm in there, right, dancing and all of that. It's so exciting. I love it because the energy is obviously there. So all these people come to these places, these conferences that you hold, the speaking, and all of that. What would be some things that you see that are common in the group that say, okay, you know, these are things that are limiting folks from getting to where they need to, that you've identified as like, okay, these are top.
Sure. So the number one would be fear. Obviously, I had a conversation yesterday with two two women that they know they can do more and they want to do more, but they're afraid what the other side of more looks like. So fear would be the one that I hear the most, the unknown. A lot of times, the gaps that we'll see in why people see what they need to do, but they don't pull the trigger on what they have to do to get there. Is resources comes up a lot. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. That's another one. But hey, listen, I had two small kids. I was driving 2 hours a day to work. I was very busy, just doing my job in corporate America, and it was a hustle, absolutely. But that 2 hour drive I used to develop myself by listening to leaders that were successful that I could learn from. And on my drive into work, I would set my mind up for success that day, learning from John Maxwell or other leaders out there that we follow, learning about strengths, whatever that may be for you, TED Talks, all kinds of podcasts. So, time is another one that I hear. Also, another one that a lot of people they start, but they don't realize how hard it is. That once you start, you're not the overnight success of developing into a leader. And remember, greatness takes time. All the greats out there, they started somewhere. But the key is they started and they were consistent in developing their leadership. They didn't stop when it got hard. They didn't say, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. They kept leading through it. And that's the key is it going to be hard? I'm not going to lie to you. Absolutely. It's brutal when we work on ourselves. We are vulnerable. We are, we have humility within us, and we have to eat a lot of humble pie because we will learn a lot about ourselves if we just ask the people that we lead what they see to help us grow. But a lot of people are afraid to ask those tough questions because they are afraid of what they may hear. So a lot of people, those are just different reasons why people don't move forward, and they just revert back to, I'll just stay where I'm at, and it's just the comfortable place for me. But it's one of my strengths, and this will speak to some of you out there, is called maximizer. It's my number two strength in my top five, and it's just innately in me that I strive for excellence. And how I use that strength is I want to be excellent. And anything I do, I go all in. And I know it's going to be hard, but that maximizer in me is just so natural where that's the pull that I have where it just comes very naturally to me. I just keep digging in because I know the more I dig, the more excellent I will be if I continue on that path. So it does come naturally for me to really push for that excellence.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, folks, if you're listening, no more excuses. No more excuses. Let's just find out what we need to do to get where we need to in order to be the best version of ourselves. I love, Kelly, that you're so secure in what your strengths are, and that's such an empowering position to be,
Oh, it is.
where you could say, "Hey, this is me. I'm," and top number two of my top five. It sounds like a show in itself,
Yeah.
right? So, um, eh, how would people that are trying to struggle, or struggling in trying to identify their strengths, what can they do today? Because we're going to share your speaking and
Sure.
all of that here in a little bit. But what can they do today to start on that road of finding their strength?
The easiest thing they could do is go to Amazon and grab Discover Your Clifton Strengths. There's a free access code in here to take the assessment. But this is where I started, and I just started reading about my strengths. So that's something anyone in the world could do. Uh, and the second thing I would say is if you want to develop your strengths, then find a coach that can help you understand. That's what I did when I started learning about my strengths. I was like, all right, this is interesting. I think this has pegged me. Now I need to know how to use it, what to do with it, and that's where the coach really came in for me to develop um, a development plan for myself around my strengths of how I can use them, how I can really understand the power, where I need to program them as far as how do I apply them in the work that I'm paid to do, and how do I communicate them. This is a key piece, especially in a situation where you're working with others, leading others, working on a team with others. A lot of people misunderstand each other. A lot of miscommunication goes on in cultures. Communication is the number one thing I'm called into to help organizations work with on their culture. It's the number one ask that they have a challenge on. And what I've learned through using strengths, when we understand who we understand the value we bring. And when we understand our strengths, we can communicate in a common language to our team members. What is it we do well? Where do we need help? And who is also a complementary partner that we can align with that supports us in that area that we're just not as good at? Who do we need around us that will help us complement our strengths? So it absolutely plays into communication. And so starting with taking your strengths and then aligning with a coach that can help you understand it and apply it in the work that you do. Your strengths can be used in so many ways, but a lot of people just don't understand how to leverage them.
Yes, I agree. And it's funny that you mentioned communication as I did a survey a year and a half ago on LinkedIn communication. It was like red hot, right?
Sure.
It seems to be that we continuously have a problem with communication, but there's a way around it. And so thank you for sharing that, Kelly, with us. I'm seeing a surge in book sales coming up
I
for
wish
the
I
Gallup.
wrote it. Gallup, get ready.
Yeah, get ready. So I could sit and talk to you all day long, Kelly. But if someone wanted to get a hold of you, have
Uh-huh.
you come to their corporation, have them come to your event and speak, how would they do that?
Sure. Basically, go to my website. It's www.kellymerblerco.com. You'll get a feel for my programs that I'm commonly asked to do. And you can connect with me there. And the number one way, of course, would be LinkedIn. I mean, that's where I have the most presence and where I communicate. Or Kelly at the kellymerblercompany.com is my direct email. If it's a speaking engagement, I'm so excited. I now have a speaker manager that handles all of my speaking inquiries. So I would connect them with Melissa Spencer, and she would help them get the information on what their event entails, what they're looking for, and then help put the program together. So I'm so excited. I now have a second team member.
Kelly Merbler times two. This is great. I love it. And folks, I'm gonna have that information as part of the video show notes, so you can have all that at at the hand, at the ready, so that you can communicate with Kelly. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your morning with me. I'm looking forward to seeing more reports of what you're doing via LinkedIn. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I just wish you all the success. Like I wear this shirt, right? But I wish you all the
Thank
success
you.
in the world. And folks, don't be shy. Reach out to Kelly. She's available. Obviously, she's screening now. So, hey, that's good. That's good because she brings a high quality product to your company. You will never regret having Kelly come and teach you guys about strength. So, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Any parting words on for our listeners concerning strength that you might want to give?
Just remember, each and every one of you that is taking the time to listen to this, that we all have something unique within us, our strengths, and that combination of strengths that we were given is only a combination that we each have. That's what makes us so individualized and so just perfectly creative, because we can only do things the way that we do things. And just remember, you each have a gift, and don't keep it in the box. Unwrap it, let it out, because the world needs more of what you bring to it. I invite all of you every Friday. I host, I'm a coffee addict, so I'm not going to lie. I have OCD, obsessive coffee disorder. Uh, Coffee with Kelly is every Friday morning from 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. You can also find that on my website, and anyone is always welcome. We do talk about strengths often, and we love to share just inspirational leadership lessons to help leaders grow. So that is my give back to the community, if anyone does want to connect with me.
Outstanding. And you see, folks, if you're watching the video version of this, I matched that coffee cup pretty well. So
That's
I'm so
right.
happy. I'm so happy for what you're doing and everything you provide to our community. Hey, folks, it's the end of our show, and you know how we like to close it out. Success to you.